Every year, people go through things, and the year end, finishing the year out, the holidays and things like that, can be stressful for a lot of people. And when it's stressful, man, people suffer from anxiety. People suffer from stress, loneliness, depression, and a lot goes on within these last few months of the year, and to the point where every January we press the reset button and try to do better, try to eat better, try to get healthier, and try to press that reset button on our lives and everything. And yeah, we want to just continue to kind of stay in that vein of therapy. We just want to have an honest conversation with two gentlemen I have, one in the studio and one with us via satellite. But we want to have that, still have that conversation, stay in that vein of therapy. We just want to have an honest conversation. I hope that you guys can get something from that. And without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and I'd like to introduce the gentleman that I have in studio here with me right now. This is Mr. Andrew Baez. Hello, Mr. B. How are you, sir?
Doing well, sir. Doing well.
Awesome, awesome. And we have Timothy Smith, on Zoom here. Tim, what's going on?
Hey, Chris.
How you
Pleasure to be
doing,
with you.
man? How you doing?
Oh, fantastic.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah. So offline, we were talking about me, and I'm calling Mr. B because I've called him Mr. B forever. So
It's all right.
I'm just say Mr. B. But we're having a conversation about distractions, and a lot of distractions and things like that that really kind of get us off track and get us off focus. And oftentimes as we focus more or less on the distractions, or the eight ball as we were calling it just a moment ago. Uh, we focus more or less on that than we focus on what it really is. And I think life, we have the opportunity to focus on what we want to focus on, but a lot of times we get distracted and sidetracked and off kilter. But yeah, let's just kind of stay in that vein. Mr. B, what are your thoughts on distractions and things like that? What is
I believe in total, absolute freedom.
it? Mm-hmm.
You are free to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah,
You're free to do anything that you desire to do.
yeah.
The question is, what is it you want to do?
Mm.
If you don't know what you want to do,
Right.
I'll tell you what to do.
Mm. Hmm.
But that's in my best interest.
Right. Wow.
And if you've got five people around you telling you to do five different things in their best interest, what do you want to
What do
do?
you want to do? Yeah, yeah,
That's life.
yeah. You know, it's funny that you led off with that at a meeting, or kind of a meet and greet with a friend of mine that's a therapist. And we were sitting there talking and stuff. And before we left, he gave me the scenario of Alice in Wonderland. You know, he gave the scenario of when Alice was running through the woods, she ended up running into the cat. Well, you know, the cat was up in a tree and the cat would disappear and things like that. And so the cat came to her and the cat said, she said, "Hey, Mr. Cat, I'm lost." He said, "Well, where do you want to go?" She said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "Well, if you don't know, then I can tell you anything. You can go this way or this way or this way." But what really stuck out was, if you don't know where you want to go, I can tell you where to go, this way, or this way, and then you'd be off track even further than when you were lost, prior to. So yeah, Tim, what do you think about that, man? How's distraction really, you know, really a problem?
Absolutely. I think, we live in a world of distractions now. We have all different types of technology. We have people vying for our attention in different areas of our lives. I think, distraction is sort of the child of procrastination,
Mm.
and procrastination is a dream killer. And so I meet a lot of people during the course of my work in politics where they have big dreams, things they want to do with their lives. And these things are fantastic. They could really be transformative for a lot of people. But because of distractions, because of procrastination, because of, mental health, some of these other things we want to discuss today, they just get sidetracked. And a 1 year goal becomes a 3 year goal and a 5 year goal, and they look up and are no closer to where they want it to be. And so I think now more than ever, in this age of technology and knowledge available at our fingertips with a million different things, we have to fight against being distracted and really focus in on our goals, our dreams, our aspirations, because we only got one life to live. So we got to make the most of it every single day.
Yeah, yeah. Procrastination, that's another big word. Yeah, man, ouch. Yeah, that's something that I struggle with, man. Is putting things off, man. If my wife is tuned in, she'd probably be saying "Amen" somewhere. But yeah, it's something that I struggle with, man. Is that just that procrastination piece that you say I'll get to it later, or you say, well, I got 5 minutes, I'll burn three, and I'll rush for the next two. And that's and that's a problem because you don't know what that next 2 minutes holds, and then you're late.
Yeah,
And that's a problem because you don't know. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, we're all, guilty of it.
Yeah.
I have people around the house right now that needed my attention for the last 6 months that I haven't gotten around to. But I think it's one thing to put off things that
because
could
you don't
perhaps
know.
wait
Go ahead.
while you're working on more important matters. But it's something altogether to put off the important things for the superficial things. I talk to young people in the house right now that, they spend 8 to 10 hours a day on their cell phone, just staring at a screen that, it's not earning them any money. It's not earning them any opportunity. It's really just a time suck.
Mm.
And so those type of things you really have to be mindful of, because again, you can look up and, a year is gone from your life and you have nothing to show for it. So.
Yeah. It's funny you talked about social media. I read a article from, and I forgot the guy's name. He's the one that created Netflix. This was back in 2017, and he said he was asked the question, "What's his biggest competition?" And so he said, "Well, my biggest competition is," and people thought it might have been, HBO Max and some other stuff, whatever case. He said, "No, my biggest competition is sleep." And I was like, sleep? And he literally said, my biggest competition, he said, we're trying to find out ways to keep people watching TV. And you think about it, the whole big thing was Netflix and chill. Or then they'll come out with series, and then people will call it binge watch. So they would binge watch all these series overnight. He said his biggest competition was sleep. And that's something, because sleep is something that should be normal, and it is normal. But they were competing with something that comes natural, a human nature, as sleep. And I thought to me that was like man against the machine. We're against the machine. We're doing our normal thing, which is sleep and rest. But they're trying to figure out ways how to keep us from sleeping and from resting. Mr. B, what do you say to that?
I think chaos is our natural state.
Yeah.
And I think our challenge in life is to be able to move beyond chaos into focus. What do I mean by that? When you know the right thing, you know what's right.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear what I just said?
Mm-hmm.
You know what's right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What did I just say?
You know what's right.
Now, what is that?
Whatever I believe is right.
It's a million things to a million different people.
Absolutely.
So we talk like that.
Yeah.
And we train our kids to think in the abstract.
Mm. Yeah.
And so when they function in the abstract, we call them names.
We call them, yeah.
Because they become what we trained them to be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we need to be, if I don't know where I'm going,
right,
and you following me,
yeah,
I'm not going to do anything.
yeah.
We have to learn to become deliberate. We have to learn to control what we do and what we say. When we talk to people, we need to learn to be clear.
Yeah, 100%.
Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
What's the interest rate on a house? Just right off the top of your head.
I would say maybe 5.2, 4.9 somewhere.
What's the interest rate on rent?
I don't know.
Want me to tell you? You already know.
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Why do we think renting is better than buying?
No obligation.
Why do we think 100% interest is better than 7% interest?
I would assume because no obligation.
Because nobody's ever told us the truth.
Okay.
Because we talk in the abstract.
Well, it's funny you said something, man. Talked about control and going back into the whole mental health conversation. Self control. And I know self control has become relative, I guess, to in the eye of the beholder. I think self control means I can't touch a person this way. You may think self control mean you can't go farther than that. How far can we go? That's another piece about the whole mental health. What is self control? We were talking about it was called the Serenity Prayer. God give me the strength to you can say it better than I can.
I mean, serenity to accept the things I cannot change, change the things that I can,
Right.
and the wisdom
To know the difference. Yeah. That part.
I can't move a house, but I can move in one.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can control me.
Right.
I can't fix the city, but I can be straight in myself.
Confident.
See, if I can't get me right, and I'm trying to get you right,
Right.
how's that gonna happen?
Can't. Something's missing.
I gotta be something before I can.
Before you can. Yeah. 100%. Tim, what do you think, man? Self control, self discipline, man. What do you think about that?
Well, I think the gentleman really just hit on something very important when he talks about if you can't get yourself right, how can you help anyone get themselves right?
Right.
I think that that's vital. We talk about community problems, community issues, global issues, whether it be violence or political disenfranchisement, mental health issues, economic issues across the gamut. But it really begins with us. What can we do? Whether it's voting, whether it's staying on a job, whether it's taking care of our children, what can we do to impact our community in a positive way? I think we've sort of gotten comfortable, and maybe because of social media again, debating each other on these big issues rather than really boiling it down to very simple things that we can do every single day to be a better person. I think it takes a level of discipline to do that. It takes a level of honesty to do that. I've been trying to really focus on that myself in this last year because you get sidetracked again on things you're trying to accomplish and these big ticket item things. But how can I be a better man every day?
Yeah.
How can I be a better father every day? How can I be more engaged with my son when he's with me? How can I be a better friend? How can I, be more involved in my friends' lives, reach out, pick up the phone, little small things. How can I make sure that the very important things in my life are not slipping behind, whether it be how I manage my money or spend it or, making sure I get out to vote on election day. So many things kind of fall through the cracks. And they're doable things. They're things that can be accomplished no matter what status in life you are, whether you have a lot of money or not a lot of money, whether you have cachet or just a regular Joe. You can focus on these things and add a little discipline to your life and really make a community impact when people begin to kind of take on that mindset.
Go ahead.
I really love what he just said. What he just said was so powerful. He said, what can I do
Right.
to be a better father?
Yeah.
what can I do?
Yeah.
And when I teach my children that I'm responsible for what I do,
Right.
then what Johnny did around the corner is not an excuse.
Right.
But as long as this is what we got to do, nobody's responsible. It's what I have to do. And that's scary because we got a verse that everybody knows, ain't nobody perfect.
Right.
So I don't want to be held accountable, but I want to hold everybody around me accountable. But he said it.
Yeah.
What do I have to do? Because I am responsible for what I do.
For me.
And if you watch me and if you listen to the way I talk and you mimic me, that means you going to grow up talking about what can I do?
Yeah.
But if you grow up talking about what we can do, then you're pushing me into a group.
Right.
See, I'm old. I'm old Vietnam vet. I learned something a long time ago. Over in Vietnam, we had these people we call gooks. I was taught to call them gooks. And I didn't see them as people.
Yeah.
They were gooks. They were a group. And so because they were a group and they were not personal people, what happened to them was not a big deal. It wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
And when we get in the habit of only seeing groups and we don't see individuals, you can do anything to a group.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Personal accountability,
Yeah.
that's really what focus is all about.
Makes a lot of sense, man, because when you do lump everybody in a particular group, and when it is not just when it is we, it's a lot more difficult because when it's we have in the group we have different ideologies, we have different mindset. You know, you may want to go this way, I may want to go that way, you know. But when it's I'm taking care of my household, it doesn't mean that I don't care about the community. It doesn't mean that I don't care about what my neighbors doing. But it's saying let me take care of my personal responsibility, and if you take care of your personal responsibility, if you take care of yours, you take care of yours, then as a collective, it should come together and it should work out.
Right.
Yeah. You know, but when we say, but when we have people say, this is my life.
It is.
I want to do what I want to do.
You're totally
I'm not worried about everybody else.
You're totally, absolutely free to do exactly what you want to do.
But does it have consequences?
There are consequences for whatever you do.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. And if what you're doing is not, see, there are two people in the world. There are people that practice addition and people that practice subtraction. Those that practice subtraction might take a minute, but eventually they're going to end up in a smaller and smaller and smaller position in life. Those who practice addition, they're going to end up in a larger position in life. But those people that end up in larger positions are those people that take personal accountability for what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, last week we had a show and there was different people that talked about different things, but there was a sister, I can't remember her name right now, but she talked about positive affirmation. What I say about myself daily makes a difference. How I frame my world in the morning makes a big difference. Whether it be meditation, whether it be prayer, whether it be getting in the mirror and saying you are healthy, you are beautiful, all of that makes a big difference. How you frame your world, it impacts how you see the rest of the world. I can wake up and watch the news and say, hey man, 27 people got shot in Chicago and 31 killed. Well, granted you feel bad, but Chicago's Chicago. They have to account for that. But as a collective, as a whole community, The I we thing. I have to take care of what I can take care of. Now, once I get so overwhelmed, consumed, bogged down with everybody else's cares, and it almost loses track of my personal responsibility. As long as I make sure I'm okay, then I'm okay. Then I can actually reach out and help somebody else to bring them along and say, hey, this is what I did for me to be okay.
When I take authority over your freedom, when I take authority over your freedom, and I'm out of order, where you gonna end up?
Lost. Because you took my freedom.
That means you got to take authority over somebody else's freedom.
That's right.
And then somebody else got to take authority over somebody else's freedom.
Yeah. It's I've heard imposter syndrome, and I don't remember what it actually means, the whole phrase of it. Tim, you know what imposter syndrome means?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the phrase. It's when you oftentimes people who are in the minority experience this a lot.
Yeah.
It's when you are in a room or in a space, whether it be on a job, really anywhere, and you feel as if you're not worthy to be there, whether because you don't have the education or professional skills. You could even have all of those skills. You could have all of that education, but you could still feel like, I don't belong here. I'm an imposter. It's only a matter of time before they realize that I shouldn't be here and they're gonna put me out.
Yeah.
And that type of mindset, I'm no psychologist, so I don't really know the roots of where that mindset comes from, but I know that it breeds, low self-esteem, it breeds anxiety, I've certainly experienced some of that myself. I came up from a very humble beginning in St. Louis, North St. Louis and East Detroit. And I didn't see a lot of people I saw successful people, but I didn't see a lot of people successful in the spaces that I wanted to go into, whether it was marketing or law or these different areas. And so when I went to college and, I graduated and I was able to have some opportunities and teach and, get into business. But you find yourself in these rooms with people who you take one look at them and you say, man, their whole life was probably set up for them to be in a room like this.
Yeah.
They probably have all the connections and the relationships that, I would never dream of having. And that mindset sort of invades everything. And you begin to forget that you're capable. You begin to forget that there's a reason why I am in this room. You begin to forget that I'm talented and skilled and capable and at least as good as anyone here. And so you sort of, that sort of mindset it ushers you to defeat before you even have an opportunity of victory. And so, when you're in a minority, whether it's racial minority, gender minority, you really have to fight against that type of thinking because it's really a fairy tale. If you find yourself in the room, there's a reason why you're there. You're there because you're good.
Yeah.
And
you end up self-destructing. Yeah.
Self-sabotaging, absolutely.
Right. So what made you feel like that you could be what you were? Giving your humble beginnings, you, Tim, giving your humble beginnings, the way you were raised and things like that, what happened in your mind or in your surroundings gave you the authority or gave you the mindset that you could be what you wanted to be?
Well, I have to give a lot of credit, and I know we're, talking about mental health. I have to give a lot of credit to my father. But I say that as a person who, I lost my father at 4 years old. He was murdered. But my father was a very deep person of faith. He was a preacher. He preached all over the world. And he left behind a legacy for me, whether it's the books he wrote or the tapes. At that time, those cassette tapes.
Yeah.
I could listen to my father growing up. And while I didn't even embrace the spiritual aspect of what he was talking about, I was still able to witness through the legacy he left behind a man who was determined, a person who was an extremely hard worker, a person who was not going to take no for an answer, a person who had to fight to see his dreams happen. And so I sort of internalized that part of it. and say, you know what, why can't I do this?
Yeah.
Why can't I go to school and be cum laude? Why can't I graduate and go into business? Why can't I be persuasive and convince people that I'm someone you want to do business with or be in a relationship with? Maybe I don't have those Ivy League connections, right? Maybe I didn't grow up and was able to go to the best private schools and, best colleges and universities. But at the same time, the things that I went through have merit, and I have a perspective and a background that others who may have grown up privileged don't have. And that is a tool that I can do positive things with in my life. And so it's really a matter of perspective. And I certainly don't mean to talk like I have it all figured out, because I certainly don't. I still struggle with that mindset to this day. But you really have to, whether it's faith, whether it's positive self-talk, like you mentioned, Chris, whether it's positive affirmations when you wake up, you got to have something that you can ground yourself in to push out those negative thoughts, so that you can keep plowing towards your goals.
100%. I agree. Mr. B, how do we get past that? How do we push past that old mind, new mind situation?
You cannot be a victim and be free. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And victim is not a physical condition. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
And once you get beyond that point where I am a victim, then you're free. And that means you start to focus on where you're going. And once you focus on where you're going, then whatever's there, like you said, you got an 8-ball up here.
Right.
Is the 8-ball between you and where you're going? If it's not, why you even focus on it?
Yeah.
Anything that stands between you and where you're going, in order for it to impact you, you have to turn away from where you're going. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there.
Right.
Any road. You can get on any road if you ain't going nowhere.
Right.
And you'll never be lost.
Right.
Never.
Right.
I like you. I was born on 17th and Forest, raised on 24th and Montgomery. I was raised on, they didn't have food stamps back then. They had commodities. I was raised on, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, I ate eggs out of a box and drank milk out of a box.
Yeah.
And my dad, who was a World War II veteran, he was a patriot. He used to get up in the middle of the night at 11 o'clock, and he'd go down on 18th and Vine. There was at a public works place down there. He'd get down there, and he'd get in the public works truck. And he would ride down to 15th and Grand. And they gave him a push broom. And he took that push broom, and he pushed, and he swept the curbs of downtown Kansas City all night, every night. So we could eat. So we could have a place to sleep. He couldn't afford to feed us. But the government stepped in with the tax dollars that he was paying and helped feed us. So many people, my father, my grandfather, my aunts, my uncles, invested in themselves, and we benefited from their investment. That I was taught, I was raised. Tomorrow's supposed to be better than yesterday was. Don't nothing come to a sleeper but a dream. So wake up. My father never pushed me to do what I did in life. My father just, whenever I sat down, if I did something wrong, I'm going to tell you, this is just for a hot second. My mom died when I was 2, so I pray for you too, my brother.
Thank you.
But my dad raised me and my brothers and my sister. But one day, I was standing on the corner, about a half a block from the house. I was about 14, 15. Everybody was playing baseball, and I had a cigarette. And I took this puff of this cigarette. My dad came around the corner and said, Andy. And I stood there and I dropped the cigarette down behind me and stepped back on. He said, Andy. And I stood there and looked at him. He said, open your mouth. And I opened my mouth and the smoke rolled out. And he said, beat me home. And he was riding and I was walking. I beat him home.
Yeah.
And he took me in the house. And he sat me on the steps. He said, I want you to tell me why that smoke came out of your mouth. I said, I don't know. He said, it's not good enough. I want you to tell me why that smoke came out of your mouth. I said, I don't know. He said, we're going to be here for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was teaching me that whatever I did, one day I was going to be held accountable for it.
Yeah.
And he was teaching me how to think and how to reason.
Yeah.
He was teaching me that. He knew
Yeah.
that if he sent me to school and I was unteachable and I was unreasonable, I wouldn't learn anything.
Yeah. 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 Mindset.
It's all about what is my why in life? Why did I put that cigarette in my mouth? Until I answer that question, I'm addicted.
Right. Mm-hmm. You become a victim.
Once I answer that question and it's not pretty, I'm out.
Yeah. Right. Right.
One of the first things that I learned in my life, and now at 70 years old, I still live with that one same thing. What is your why?
What is your why?
What is your why? That's how you solve your problem. That's personal. What is your why? Why? Why are you doing what you're doing? Because if you don't ask the question and answer that question, what is your why?
Yeah.
Then you're dealing with my why.
Yeah, you'll be spinning your wheels looking for what is my why. And the funny part about it is not only will you be spinning your wheels looking for what is my why, you really won't even know that you're looking for what is your why because you don't know what to look for.
No.
Yeah.
You're not going anywhere. You're just going.
Yeah.
You're just joyriding through life.
Yeah. No focus, no direction.
Now, can I say one more thing?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
One of the most valuable lessons I learned, just because somebody does something that is unpleasant to you, that does not give you the right to be unpleasant to them.
Why is that?
Because once I stand up and I start to verbally abuse you, and my kids are watching that, guess who they want to be like?
Yeah. Yeah. The victimizer. Yeah. Yeah. Hence bullying. Yeah. Yeah. You create the their Superman, which is normally the dad. Their Superman has just their Superman, their image of Superman has just solidified an image in their brain. That's what I want to be like. That Superman, my daddy. You know, I grew up without a father. My father wasn't in the house, but I had 4 uncles and stuff like that, and so, you know, I learned something from all of them, you know, and what I learned from all of them, you know, I was like, well, I don't want to do that, you know, but I created an identity off of my uncles, you know, and the dope boys in the neighborhood. I created the identity about taking a little bit from each one of them and forming my own image of me. And when I began to see what the image of me was, I didn't like it. And I didn't take everything that was bad from them. I took some good stuff from a lot of these guys, man, hard work, nice things and things like that. But I took that off of their image, but not what my image was, not what I wanted to be. And I had to change that. I said, what? I had to find my why. And nobody asked me, what is your why? But I had to find out what my why was. Why am I, why do I have to have so many ladies? Why do I have to work so hard to spend $200 for a pair of jeans and $500 on a pair of shoes? Why is that? Is it the image? Yeah, it's the image. I can go somewhere else and get, something else. You talked about commodities, and we grew up and, my mom and them had the food stamps, the paper food stamps, So, you sit back and you look and you like, finding your why. Man, that's heavy. What is my why? Why am I here? Why am I existing? What do I like? We say, Tim.
Everybody has a why.
Yeah.
Everybody
That's
has
deep.
a why.
Yeah.
And I learned from my dad with my kids. They're all grown now. But I learned to ask them, why?
Yeah. That's a loaded question, though.
Well, it's a focus question.
It's a focus, man. Yes, it is.
People are taught to focus or not focus.
Yeah.
It's a learned behavior.
Yeah.
Nobody has more impact on a child
Yeah.
than their parent.
Yeah. 100%.
Nobody.
Yeah.
And I know that because I've lived it.
Yeah.
I've had some friends that were crazy. My dad told me they were crazy.
Yeah.
And I said, you don't know what you were talking about. They was crazy.
Yeah.
I've been beat up by the police. I've been in the back of paddy wagons. I've done some crazy things in my life.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you something right now. I was the cause of all of it. Every time I got messed up, I did something crazy.
Yeah. Man, that's Tim, you were jumping in there?
Yeah, I think you all really touched on something, the why part. Until you start asking yourself why about these negative behaviors, you're never going to be able to change it because you're not facing it. And, these negative behaviors that we all sort of, at some point of our lives, lean into, they come from somewhere.
Right.
Oh, but what was it that happened to you?
Right.
What did you see?
Yeah.
What did you hear? Why are you so angry? What are you hurt about? Until you start asking yourself these why questions, you're not going to be able to change any of it. And particularly in our community, I'll go ahead and say it. A lot of times we've been taught to ignore the pain that we feel. We've been taught to, not do therapy and not talk to people about our problems and the things that hurt us because we've been sort of taught that we have to be tough. So that's the only way we're going to be able to survive in this world is to be tough. But in actuality, toughness has its place, grit has its place. But until you get to the point to where you're able to address what's hurting you, your mental health is never going to improve. You have people walking around extremely fractured because of things that have happened in their childhood that they never addressed and they were never given permission to address. Yeah. They were told to forget about it.
Right.
And they're on a paper thin edge to where a little bit of nothing can happen to them. Someone step on their shoe, someone bump them in line at the grocery store. And the response is such in disproportion to what actually took place. And it has nothing to even do with what took place. It has everything to do with those unaddressed trauma, that unaddressed pain, hurt that they haven't come to. And oftentimes we see these situations where it costs people their lives, it costs people their jobs, it costs people their marriages and their relationships with people because they've been separated from all of that because they weren't able to deal with the root of the problem. And, I raise both my hands when I say I've been guilty of that myself.
Yeah.
When my father was murdered when I was 4 years old, I didn't go to therapy.
Yeah.
I I didn't even know that was an option.
Yeah, right, right.
You know, we went to church the next Sunday,
Yeah,
and you know that has its place too. You know, if you're a person of a Christian, a person of faith,
yeah,
but there's some things that don't get better unless you sit down and talk about
yeah.
it. You just don't.
Yeah, no, that's powerful, man. And what you said is a topic that I really want to dig into in the next couple of weeks and try to reach out to some more people. Triggers. What are your triggers? What are your emotional triggers? What are the things that set you off, and why do they set you off? Okay, somebody cut you off in traffic, and you flip them the bird. You run up on their bumper, you cut them off, you jump in front of them. Was it the act of them cutting you off, or was it the act of something that happened and happened and happened and happened and or that's you and continued to happen? So the act of that moment right there. That moment right there that happened wasn't just that moment. That moment that happened right there was a moment that happened some time ago, just build up, you know what I'm saying? And at that moment, it ignited something. You said, enough's enough. This person just jacked me up and I'm upset. So what was that trigger that set you off?
We play with conversation. We play with words. We play with insults.
Man.
We play with saying dehumanizing things. We play with that stuff.
Yeah.
We cuss out our children because we don't think it's dangerous.
Yeah.
We cuss out our husbands and our wives because we don't think it's really that big a deal. We talk about those people over there, but we're planting seeds, and those seeds grow.
They grow.
I don't care who you are. Your child wants to be better than you at what you're doing. And if you're an insult artist, your child wants to be a better insult artist than you. If you're a bully, your child wants to be a better bully than you.
10x.
Your child always wants to be everything that you want him to be. And whatever you're showing him that this, quote, good thing is, that's what your child is going to aspire to. It's natural.
Yeah. Yeah, do what I say and not as I do. Well, it's kind of difficult to do as I say because what you're saying and what you're doing is two different things. So I hear what you're telling me, but man, you're doing something totally opposite all the time. And the funny part about it is we talk about this and many of us may not know this in the room other than Mr. Baez or whatever, but I met Mr. Baez when I was going through a rough time. I had just gone through a bad divorce, and I didn't know which way was up. I didn't know which way was my road. I didn't know how to go. And in 2007, man, I was going through a bankruptcy, a foreclosure. I sold my truck and a divorce. And I was a young man. I was, and I couldn't get a grip on a lot of stuff, and it was tough for me, man, to the point where I ventured back into some of those old ways because I didn't really know my why. And when I ventured back into those old ways, drug and alcoholism and stuff, and I thank God for the person who introduced us, I don't know if I say her name or not, but I thank God for her. She was very instrumental in that. She was my bankruptcy lawyer, and she told me one day, she said, "I got somebody I want you to meet," and I was like, "I think he'll be a good fit for you," because I used to. I'll say, so when I went through all that stuff, I had all of my stuff in the shoebox. That was it. All of my important papers was in I think it was a Stacey Adams black shoebox. That was everything I had from my house when I went through the things. So, and that's what I carried. So she would say, "Bring your shoebox in." So I bring my shoebox in. But she told me one day, she said, "What are you gonna do with the rest of your life?" I said, "I don't know." You know, because I mean, I was married for 10 years. She was all I knew. I was, 19 or 20 when we got married, and we had a house and all this stuff together. So I said, I don't know. I said, I want to start a business. And she said, okay, we're going to do it. I said, art gallery, because I wanted to do an art gallery. Yeah, it was an art gallery, shoebox, and so she's like, okay, cool. That sounds good. She said, how you going to start? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know, But she said, I got somebody I want you to meet. And I thank God for I call him Mr. B because just what it is. But I thank God for him opening his doors, and I'll give you your flowers right now. I appreciate that.
God bless you.
He didn't have to, every Wednesday I was over there at his house. God bless Miss Teresa, your wife. And, you didn't have to come, and open up the door and say, hey, man, beautiful house. You didn't have to invite me in, but you did. Mrs. Foley didn't have to tell me, I got somebody you want to talk to. And you always told me it's to keep the relationships that you had.
Keep them.
Keep the relationships that you had. And I never forgot that. And that's one reason why we're having this conversation, because I kept the relationship I had. Mm-hmm. I think, God, you see me in scripture every morning, and sometimes I read it, sometimes I don't. But you see in the scripture every morning. And there was a time that I would write all those scriptures down and stuff. And it meant a lot. I mean, it still does, but it meant a lot to me because during the darkest times of my life, when I was, going through my trials and my trauma and my triggers and things like that, where anything could have happened, where I could have just flew off the handle. And I thought about some bad stuff in my mind. But every Wednesday I can say, Mr. B, I'm coming over. He already knew it. And he can take me to meet different people in business and things like that. But I thank God for that because, had it not been for that, I don't know where I'd be. Because it was tough.
Can I say something?
Yeah, yes, sir.
I was born in sin,
mm-hmm.
and I was shaped in iniquity. Mm-hmm. Everybody I've ever met was born in sin and shaped in iniquity. And everybody's going to meet somebody.
Right.
And when you meet that somebody, all you want them to do is listen.
Listen.
Just listen.
Right.
Let me vent.
Yeah.
Get this out. And don't tell me how to fix it.
Yeah, right.
Just let me get this out.
Yeah.
And always remember, never build the rest of your life on the worst day of your life.
Mm.
Always look forward. Yesterday's gone. You can't fix that.
Right.
You keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Every day when you wake up, that's why I send that verse out. I've been doing it for years.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Every day when you wake up, and every time I've ever talked to you, you've always had that smile.
Mm-hmm.
You've always made me feel good.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But when you wake up in the morning,
yeah,
that's a new day.
Yeah.
And it's a good day.
Yeah.
Depending on what you do with it.
Amen. 100%.
And that's where you sitting where you at.
Yeah.
And I thank you for allowing me
100%
to benefit.
Absolutely.
From what you're doing today.
Absolutely.
Because this is really this is where the power is.
Yeah.
If we can sit here and have a conversation about positive things, everybody in everybody's house can do the same thing.
Yeah.
And it don't take 100 years.
Yeah.
All it takes is somebody to start listening.
Yeah.
In every house.
Yeah. I'm gonna say this, and I'll let you say something, Tim, real quick. Mr. Walker can attest this. I haven't done radio. I've been hitting and missing for some months, after COVID, and it just, Mr. Walker got a show, don't have a show. He'd be like, okay. He knows that. But one day I got up, brother Tim, Mr. B, about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. And I believe God told me to send message out to guys. And, and I was like, okay. And so I'm on Messenger. I'm in the morning, I'm like hours scrolling through, hitting me. And I was going to assume maybe 10 guys, maybe 5-10 guys, because that's what happened before years ago. There was 28 people that responded, Tim. Almost 30 guys and some ladies that responded with yes. And that shocked me because I wasn't ready for a yes. I was ready for, nah, I got this going on. Maybe I can do this. Nah, I really don't know, man. Maybe. And I called Mr. B and was like, yo, I don't know what to do. He's like, you don't have to do the whole thing in one spot, Chris. You can break it down in different segments. I said, yeah, but it's about 30 people. He said, God don't want you to do it. Maybe God doesn't want you to do it all in one spot. Maybe this thing needs to prolong or, go out. And when you told me that, it made me think about when I read a study a couple of years ago when I was going through my situation. It talked about during the holidays are the darkest time for a lot of people. Because people have gone through, I lost my mother in 2018 through cancer, and you know what I'm saying? But it made me think about during those times, and my birthday is next week, my mother would have called me 2 or 3 times, like, Chris, it's your birthday right now? And so this is tough for me, I mean, but it made me think about, when they say the holidays, they say the holidays are dark for people. They go through depression, they go through loneliness, suicidal thoughts, so around the holidays, between October, even before October, but between them and all the way through January, February, are the darkest time for some people because they don't have that person calling to say hey, or they have the superficial idea of a holiday. Everybody want to come over, and everybody's hey, how you doing, and all that stuff, and then you never hear them for the rest of the year. So in that right there, I believe God told me, said, man, listen, put this stuff out because there's going to be somebody that'll tune in at 2:00 in the morning that need to hear what we're talking about. What is my why? Why am I still, what is my why? Tim, go ahead, brother.
Well, I can attest to that for many years, many years. That that fourth quarter of the year was rough.
Yeah.
I lost my father in October, my mother in December, between the ages of 4 and 17 years old.
Yeah.
And so that was just the worst time of year for me. But I'll say this, if somebody is watching this video at 2:00 in the morning at some point, just know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
When you're in those moments, going through that, maybe rock bottom at the worst time of your life, you feel like you're all alone. You feel defeated. You feel like you don't have a friend in the world. But none of that is true. None of that is true.
Yeah.
You have connected with people up to that point, before you got to your lowest point, who are waiting and willing to listen to you and help you if you reach out to them. You are never alone. You are never by yourself. But that gets buried beneath what you're going through in those moments. And you really have to fight to remember those things and start reaching out to your lifeline so you can pull yourself out of that depression, that despair, the worst time, like you said, Chris, of your life that you're going through. And Mr. Baez really, man, he really hit a point that I had to remind myself some years ago. And that was the worst day of your life shouldn't be indicative of the rest of your life. Or the worst day of your life, you shouldn't take that as 100% of who you are as a person for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful and so needed for people to understand and to realize and to internalize. Because we live in a culture where people are quick to cancel you.
Yeah.
You make a mistake, you wake up, you say something, you do something, and maybe the second you say it or do it, you realize, man, why did I say that? Why did I do that?
Yeah.
And people are rushing to cancel you. People are rushing to define you and say, well, this is why he's this way. And let's look further back into his past and see this might be pathological why he did this. And they just invent ways to throw more dirt on you while you're dealing with the worst moment of your life. And you just have to remember that, you know what? While people are throwing that dirt on you, while you're down in that hole, while people are canceling you, while you made a mistake, and you got to own the mistake if you really made one.
Yeah.
You got to accept that and ask for forgiveness and get it right. But at the same time, you are not your worst mistake.
Amen.
Don't lose your faith when you're at rock bottom. Believe in yourself and believe that you can get up off the mat. You can get back in the game. You can prove these doubters wrong. you can get back on the right track towards success. And that is something that is so very much needed for everybody.
Yeah.
Because at some point, if you haven't arrived there yet,
Yeah.
you're going to have a moment in your life where you're down on that mat and you don't want to get up again.
100%.
And those are the things you have to really, really grab onto to get back on track.
Can I
Yeah,
say something right
Tim, thank you, Mr. B. You wanna go ahead and run us out with your closing?
Real quick.
You can run
I
us
love
out.
everything you said. But when you flat on your back, you're not out of the game. That's part of the game.
Oh,
Listen, man, you can't close it out no better than that. Listen, this is Street Therapy. This is Chris Jackson.
Well, wait a minute, Chris. Before you go out, just want to acknowledge that you did have a person online
Yeah.
that was coming in, and it says that he was talking about the why. It says, why got me sent to the principal's office on many occasions. As a kid, I honestly wanted to know why, and the teachers mistook my natural curiosity as being disruptive. Then he said, my 7th grade teacher, Mr. Wilson at King Middle, figured it all out. He told other teachers to stop sending me out of their classroom. He told them all to give me more work because this child is bored. He also told me to ask why, and he also told me to make my teachers earn their money. And they made me push even more to learn more.
That's right.
He was a genius.
He had 100.
The kid was a
He
genius.
had a very high IQ.
IQ.
We have kids with very
Yes.
high IQs,
Sheesh.
and they get bored.
Because we slow.
We don't challenge them.
Yeah.
We don't challenge them to
Yeah.
grow.
Yeah.
I try to tell people all the time, give people information that can help them grow.
Yeah.
It's a difference between giving them your opinion
Yeah.
and giving them information. They can't grow on your opinion, but they can grow on information. I don't know anything about radio, but look what y'all have done here.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember, and we'll close it, Mr. Walker. I don't know, man. I remember a pastor, God rest her soul, she passed away. She used to always say, give the kids the cookies in the cookie jar where they can reach them. And what she meant by that was put it down there to where they can reach it. Give them access to it. They're going to get what they want to get out of it. Just give them access to it. And oftentimes, is we think maybe we're speaking over their head, or we're not being relevant, whatever case. Give it to them the way they could receive it, or give it to them straight up, and then they'll take what they need out of it, and then they'll grow from it, and they'll learn from it. Mr. B, Mr. Andrew Baez, I thank you. I appreciate you. Timothy Smith, Tim, appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Love you, man.
All right, listen here. This has been Chris with Street Therapy, KC, man. Listen, man, God bless y'all. Take care of each other, man. Till we meet again, take care.
Thank you. It was a good show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
that was great, Chris.
All right, take care, man.
All right.